Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Now in the last Phalaenopsis update that I did, this plant was picked on because of all the algae in the pot, and I need that gone, as it'll break down the media and it eventually turns slimy, and if it coats the roots, it stops the roots working properly, stops them breathing and all that. Now I haven't had this one long. This was got at Burnham's back in August or September, I've forgotten which, and it was repotted at the time, but it's the only one out of the ones on the kitchen windowsill that's got bad signs of algae. Now at the time I said that the roots weren't bad. I'm going to take that back. They're actually quite bad. Quite bad. So that was unexpected, but I'll get this deeper in the media. Now I want to reuse this media, so the last thing I want is all these dead roots in it. So I'm just going to pick those out now. I want to reuse the media. So what I'm trying to do is keep the media separate, and the odd root in there won't matter. But you sort of look at this when I get my hands out of the way. Quite a few of the roots have actually broken off. Yeah, so when I repotted this, I said the roots weren't bad. Well, maybe they weren't bad then, but they are now. Right, so as I said, the media isn't breaking down or anything like that, but it has got algae on it. So we'll get the media out of the way. That's going in that saucepan over there, and that's going to get boiling water poured on it in a minute. And that will kill off any algae and any mould spores that go with it, or anything untoward, and then it will be allowed to cool down, or well, obviously, and the plant will go back in it. But it's going to go back in it with an awful lot less roots. So now I've got to go round each root in turn and take off ones that are dead or rotten, leaving what's firm. So anything that's soggy comes off, and the obvious soggy ones come off first, so that I don't have to worry about them. I mean, when you see something like that, it's dead. So you just go back to the source and take it off. So as I say, I'm taking the obvious off first, and then we'll have a look at what's left and see if it's savable. Good, 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 good. So that one's good. That one is good apart from that bit, but salvageable. We're doing okay now. Well, that one's obviously gone, it's just fallen off. Right, everything that's left, oh hang on, I haven't done this side, have I? It's just that tatty bit there really. So what's left is viable, it will be able to hydrate the plant, and it's capable of branching. That's the important thing. So you don't want any of that rubbish. And what I'm going to do now is give that base of that plant a good spray with hydrogen peroxide. The reason for that is any signs of mould or algae should be killed off. So we give the whole of the base of the plant a really good go. It's got some snips to the roots and possibilities of algae getting going again, although once this is tucked inside a black pot it should be okay. Now a lot of people say there's no point in rinsing that off because once it's done its job it turns to water. It's H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, and the fizzing is effectively an oxidization process which gets rid of one of the O's, which leaves H2O, which is water. I don't trust it. It has, although at 3%, it's a very mild solution of hydrogen peroxide, it still has a burning effect. And I believe if left on too long, it could possibly do some cell damage. So better safe than sorry, just leave it for a minute or two and then run it under the tap. Just make sure it's gone. So I've got to go out in the kitchen now. I need to run that under the tap, and I'm going to pour some boiling water over this. Leave it to soak for a bit in the boiling water, give it a good stir around and everything like that. And then obviously once it's cooled down, we'll come back and pop the plant up, and we'll give this a good clean while we're out there. Yeah, the algae's on the pot, so we'll give that a clean as well. And I'll be back. Okay, so the media got put in a saucepan, boiling water poured over it, good stir, good slosh around like that, and left to soak for some time. I don't know what it was, about 15 minutes, something like that. And basically the pot had a clean, that had also had boiling water poured all over it, and then a bit of a scrub. It's got some stains in the bottom that don't want to come off, but it's only coloration. And now what we've got to do is, this pot would have been crocked with the large bark, so I need to dig that out again, because in amongst this mix is some what do you call it, cocoa husk, and I don't want that in the bottom of the pot. I want the rock hard bark at the bottom, because the roots won't go right down to the bottom, so I don't need to hold moisture at the bottom of the pot. What I need is for the bottom of the pot to have a free airflow through the air cone. Yeah, there's no point in having those if you're going to block it off. Oops. Ugh. So we'll put a nice lot of the large bark in the bottom and make sure none of those holes are blocked up. And if the roots start growing really well, they will get down into there anyway, but the upper part of the pot will be okay. Now, because Phalaenopsis, when they're potted up, are relatively unsteady, and if we get new root tips poking out anywhere and it rocks every time you pick the pot up, you can damage those root tips. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that with the plant sitting on the pot rim. It holds itself now, yeah, which is good. That also means it's going to be deeper in the pot, which means it won't have so much media. And I hate potting with wet media, but I haven't got much choice here, have I? I don't want to go down in the shed and get new stuff out when there's nothing wrong with this old stuff. But what I have got to do is be very careful to make sure, to one degree or another, the air pockets are actually filled. It's not absolutely imperative for Phalaenopsis orchids to have their roots touching stuff. Quite often they'll head for the gaps anyway. You find you get your new root growth where there isn't any media rather than where there is. They just seem to head that way. But nonetheless, I don't want huge air gaps. I'd like this root system to get going a bit, so I'm picking some big bits out so that I've got some small bits to just get down in this area. There we go. And the larger stuff can go on the top. The idea is that the plant is sitting comfortably. The media will now come a little bit farther up the stem of the plant than it did before, and with any luck that should encourage some new root growth above the roots we've already got. Now, that doesn't always happen, but if it does, the new roots will come out straight into some media. And because it's relatively large stuff near the top of the plant, it will dry quickly, so it's not going to rot the stem. And then all I'm going to do with that is give it a gentle tap, just to settle it. And make sure I haven't got bits of bark on the bottom leaf there. So that's it. You won't be able to see any roots because they're on the inside, but they are there. And hopefully we will now get some root branching going on and some new root growth as a consequence. As I said, the fact that when I potted this I actually said the roots weren't bad in my notes, It's the only time I ever update my notes to that level of detail is at repotting time, when I do actually specify what media I've used, what the mix was, and it's said with this, large bark, some cocoa husk and some some charcoal, and a little sprinkling of medium bark. That would have been to fill up some of the gaps. And basically the roots didn't progress very well, they went downhill. So let's hope now they will progress. Now that media is absolutely soaking wet, not like as though I'd just watered it, it's soaking wet. It's been in soak in boiling water. It will have absorbed a colossal amount of water. I probably won't water that now for about 10 days, but it's not getting a drop of water until that pot is bone dry. Yeah, otherwise we could set off some rot. So that's it, it's done. It's nice and firm in its pot on the ground. It's sitting on the edge of the pot, and once I see new root growth, I could gently pick that up and lift it very slightly, and then just gently tuck the media down and raise it about half a centimetre so that it doesn't touch the edge of the pot. But touching the edge of the pot won't do it any harm as long as it doesn't wobble around. So that's that one done, and I'm going to leave that tag, even though it's meaningless, in it because it differentiates this one from the others. Yeah? So I know that this is the one that was bought last year, not part of the original set. Oh, sorry, I was just looking at what it actually says on there. It says moth orchid, Phalaenopsis, moth orchid, shade from direct sun in summer. In other words, they're saying it's probably all right in the winter. Maybe. Depends where your winter is. And water sparingly, warm, minimum 15 degrees to 21, 15 to 21. So there we go, that can tuck back in. As I said, that's just to differentiate from the others in the set. So there we go, repotting a Phalaenopsis with some pretty poor roots that needed to come off, leaving the ones that are firm to the touch and potted up nice and firm so that it doesn't wobble around when you pick the pot up. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Trust me, forgot to say again, on the end of the video there'll be a link to another Phalaenopsis repotting video. If you're interested, you can just click or tap on the link at the end of the video and it'll take you to another one. Right, now see you next time. Bye for now.